Hey, we're live. Look at this. A special Monday session because it was graduation this weekend. Episode 63, This Life in Tech. I'm Jason.
And I'm Dan, coming to you from somewhere.
The hall of worship.
Oh, man. So how was graduation?
Dude, it was, I'll tell you what, though. There's a lot of new effort being put into doing like formal ceremony and like, you know how academia is, man. It's all ritualistic. And so, you know, either you do it or you don't. And there's a new effort being put into let's do it by the book. And I mean, I'm not exaggerating. They ordered books and read the books and they're just following the book. So they put the tent in a different place and it was arranged differently. And that was nice. It made it feel like it was bigger. You know, as the vice president of the faculty senate, because the president and the former president both opted to not read the names of the graduates, I did it. And I put on a hell of a show, man. A hell of a show. Calling names.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah,
great.
I did just the undergraduate ones, but a couple of people came up to me afterwards and like, can you read all of them next year? And I said, yeah, but I mean, you got to understand what you're asking for. If I'm reading, I read 50 names. If I'm going to read 150, it's going to be 3 times the show.
Yeah.
Well, do you remember, man? Do you remember how good that announcer was for the Fighters and Pride? It was a lady.
Yeah,
man. Yeah.
Nice. So who won the research award?
This guy. That's 5 in a row.
So I got to ask you this question.
Yeah, sure.
So is winning this award kind of like you winning the gold medal at the Special Olympics, yet you're not handicapped?
In some ways. Well, I mean, look, there's not a lot of competition. You and I both know that. Some years there has been, some years there hasn't been. This year there was a little bit. I mean, Greem has done some nice work already with the students doing poster sessions and papers and stuff, right? But here's the thing. Look, if we're going to compete, which I believe in competition, fair, healthy competition. I'm not going to step on people to hurt them. You know what I mean? But let's make each other better. Right? Iron sharpens iron. I don't feel in any way ethically or morally responsible if other people can't compete or choose not to. And really, I don't, you know, there's a small cash award with it. I obviously don't give a shit about that. I don't really care about the plaque. I put them in a box. I don't even put them on the wall or anything. All I really want out of it is I want them to say my fucking name one more time. Just say my name one more time. That's really the only reason I do it, man. Because I'd be doing the research anyway. I get like a twisted personal satisfaction out of making people say my name. The people that have to say it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really all it is, man. Just say my name. So they live streamed it this year too, the whole thing, man. And from what I heard, it was pretty good. So they did the teaching award first. A new dude got that. I don't remember his name, and I've never really met him, but I know he's doing good work. Grima was second. They gave her the service award, which she deserves, man. She puts in a lot of work for kids, especially undergraduates. And then they did mine, and they called my name, and like nobody cheered. So I stood up and fuck yeah, come on, say my name. Everybody did. Everybody was clapping and cheering, and I got up on the stage, and that's 5 in a row. Listen, if they ever let me get,
did you do a Ric Flair walk?
A little bit, man. A little bit, yeah. A little strut. If they ever let me get close enough to grab the mic, I'll take it. See, because this is where they're screwing up, though, is the calling of the graduate names is directly after that, and I get a microphone. So I asked that during rehearsal.
Actually, dude, there's a way in which we could hijack the microphone. Like we could add another one to the system.
Oh, I can just yell loud enough.
Not that difficult.
Well, so that's what I asked him during the rehearsal, because the rehearsal was just about as long as the ceremony itself the day before. And so my first question was, do I get a microphone? And of course, everybody's like, why? I'm like, because if you give me a microphone, you can't shout over me. That's why. I mean, you got to understand what you're asking for, right? I mean, you're giving me a mic, and depending on how I feel. Now, I woke up in a weird mood, man. I woke up in a weird mood where I ain't even said this to Helen. You know, I don't think I want to do this anymore. Like any of this, it just feels so weird and artificial. And you know, some of the people show up, and we're sitting in this room, and I was listening to them spout their nonsense bullshit. I'm like, man, fuck this, dude. Fuck this. I don't think this is it. Like, you know what I mean? And then once I got warmed up, then I felt good. But yeah, man, I gave him a little woo.
Nice.
That's 5 in a row. Now the next question is it really legitimate? Because once again, they printed the wrong degree on it. I don't have a PhD. I have a DSC.
Right. Oh, wait, you have a what?
Well, actually, it's PsyD. But, you know, I'll meet him halfway.
Well, no, I got it on record.
I'll meet him halfway. Just put the right letters on. We can worry about the order of the letters later. I know that would twist the leaf sometimes.
Yeah, that for those that don't know, there's been a long-standing debate as to whether or not is it a science doctorate or doctor of science in terms of the initials as to how they go. Jason says it's SCD, like PhD, and a couple of people at the university say it's DSC. Me, I don't really care because at the end of it, they still got to call me doctor.
That's right. Well, and it's valid. You can do it either way. No different than you can do PhD or DPhil.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, there's different orders of it. It doesn't change anything. You know what? I think PsyD follows the PhD standard in the West, and dude, it's in my signature. It's on my cards.
Yeah. So
anyway, man, speaking of cards, holy cow, you got involved at the end of this Twitter bullshit.
Oh, I know. It was kind of funny because then I went to go look into it, and I couldn't.
Yeah. Well, so here's the bizarre thing. This is what I don't understand. It's the 21st century. Yeah. Granted, it's new, but we're still in the 21st century. At this point, who the fuck puts anything on the internet, not assuming that it's going to be there forever? Like, why would you do that? You know, so somebody that's a mutual friend of ours on Twitter, we both follow and they follow us, made a comment about some of the academic research coming out of like Facebook and Twitter and stuff, right? Because sometimes, especially through grants and through agreements with those organizations, you can get access to the data and do legitimate research. And I've seen some of it. It's fascinating stuff, man. And the person was going off about privacy and how that should never be allowed and academics should hold themselves to a higher standard. And all I pointed out was, look, and this was around what this person was calling informed consent. So all I wanted to do was clarify what informed consent means in the US under the Office of Human Research Protocols and IRB guidelines state. And it's very clear. The rules are transparent. And so I said, well, look, you know, there's situations in which you can have an implied consent, and that takes two forms. You can have a waiver, or you can just have, under certain conditions, the IRB of the institution you're doing the research under just waive consent entirely, particularly when the data is all anonymized and there's no danger to the, I'm going to call them subjects because I think it's a better word, but the participants. And that's all I said. And this dude started arguing with me. Like, no, that's bullshit. It's wrong. And all I said was, well, look, man, you don't have to do it. I'm not saying I would do it. All I'm saying is you have to recognize that the rules afford for conditions in which that can be true. That's it. Don't pretend like it's not real. It is. You don't have to do it. And this dude's response after I point out like the guidelines and I quote them and I quote the sections in the federal rules.
Yeah, from Cornell. I remember you posted Cornell.
Well, because he was trying to say that only bullshit institutions would do that or people with no ethics. I know. And so I said, well, look, I mean, Cornell's a fairly well-known university worldwide. I think I put a couple other ones on there like Harvard or Stanford or something. I mean, these are top tier schools because the guidelines are the same. And then it became, oh, well, I don't know what you guys do in the US and your cavalier attitudes. Well, and so then that's when
did you post Oxford?
No, because at that point, this guy just wants to be a cunt.
Oh,
or actually, I should say he is because he's just right. At some point, I have to imagine that either he realized what he had done was wrong in stating what he stated, but because this happened after I sent the tweet to you saying, hey, I know what we're talking about in the next episode.
Yeah.
His reaction to that isn't to say, hey, look, man, thanks for pointing that out to me. You know, it's not like that. I don't know where he's at. I'm going to assume Australia because that's where this all started from. You know, it's done differently here, but I see, right, having an actual discourse about it. He blocks both of us. You'd never even said anything yet. And then he deletes the tweets. But they're still in my feed. So I took screenshots and I sent them to you.
Yeah. I was like, what did he say? I'm like, I went to go, I'm like, why am I being included in this? And I went to look at it and I'm going, what is this?
Well, because I had sent it to you late at night, man. For me, it was late at night, so it must have been really late for you. And then I went to bed and I woke up the next morning and I saw your message, your tweet saying I can't see it, and I'm like, that's fucking weird because it's still in my feed.
Yeah.
Well, I hadn't refreshed my app, so it was still there. And
what's interesting is because Asher is not that I agree with everything she says, but I mean she has an opinion and she backs up her opinion with facts that justify it. She didn't say anything.
Not one thing.
And that. I mean, I understand her, her point. Now that we've got the stuff with Cambridge Analytica, and we know that it's gone, with Twitter and Facebook, but is Cambridge Analytica, is that a for-profit? I never really looked much into it because I just assume if you're going to use any type of social media, you're basically saying I'm out in the public, and it's just like I'm walking down the street with no clothes on, and I tell people, hey, you can't take a picture of me. Hey, I'm out in public. And I just look at anything in social media, anything on the internet is the same thing. You just don't have an expectation of privacy. That's just my opinion. You don't. If you want an expectation of privacy, then host your own and create your own rules.
Yeah, well, and you can not like that there's implied consent, and you don't have to do it. You don't have to do an observational study where you just sit in a mall and watch people walk around and report on how many steps they take from A to B. Okay, then don't do it. But you can't say that it's not legitimate science, and you can't say that it's unethical. Because it's just
mainly because there's no such thing as unethical.
Yes, I agree. But in the way that term is defined in this context, it's just unreasonable to make those claims, and I showed why. Anyway, man.
Well, this is what happens when people lose an argument on the internet. They immediately just block you.
Yeah. Well, and in fact, that's what it goes to show you. It goes to show you that they're looking just to win instead of, Twitter's like the perfect platform to have, actually, in my opinion, to have a meaningful discussion because you're limited to what you can say piece by piece, right? So you can't really talk over people. You can't shout them down. You can ignore them. You can block them. You can delete it. But you know what I mean? It's not like getting into an argument with somebody with a microphone that can just talk over you.
Yeah. I've never seen this happen before.
Right? And, so to take that and react by blocking us and then deleting everything, and in this dude's profile, he said he was a lecturer at a university in music. I don't know if it was music theory. I don't know what it was. But I don't know, man.
I'm glad I don't go to that school. I feel sorry for those that go there and aren't able to perform research.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I just don't get it, man. I do get it. That's not true. I do get it. It just makes me laugh. It makes me laugh.
That is society today. It's a snowflake society. People, if you disagree with someone, you are a racist, a sexist, you're a misogynist, whatever other ifs you want to add to it, rather than, hey, I'm just human, and I have all I want. This is what's funny because I was having this debate the other day. People in power, don't want to relinquish their power. But what they forget is that they're always going to have power. And if you can just raise the bottom of society up 10%, well, there's a multiplier that goes back to where even those in power are going to get even more. But the quality of living for the base just increased. And that's why I'm always I'm not looking to improve my top performers in my organization. They're top performers. I need to go to the people that are the junior level people. Those that are struggling. And if I can improve them, then, hey, I just improve my overall capabilities in the organization. It's like this with our, the humans that exist on this planet. To constantly take one class and to say that in order to make you whole, I have to bring them down. What are we doing to bring that other class of, citizen up? I don't think enough people are doing that. It's all about taking away.
Yeah, you're right. And really, all you really need, because of the huge number you're dealing with, 5%, 10% increase in performance. I mean, that's not much, man. That's not much.
Multiplies.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you do it across a couple 100 million people.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so to pretend like the answer, like you said, right, is to shout down, to block, to delete information, to accuse somebody of something that somehow in other people's eyes makes them less than. Yeah. It's just, it's 2-year-old. I mean, my 3-year-old doesn't do that. My 3-year-old doesn't do that. She figured it out.
I'll give this dude one piece of credit. At least he didn't send you a link from Medium.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because that's what I was waiting on. I was waiting for I just published on Medium. So speaking of which, you want to get into the next one? And
yeah.
I know this one riles you, and it didn't for me in the beginning, but now it's really starting to. So this PGP shit that came out last night, this morning, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so forget about I haven't read everything around who broke the embargo, what the vulnerability actually really is. It seems like it's not in PGP, the algorithm, not even in the implementation of PGP necessarily, except in the browser plugin and how content is rendered for decryption, as I understand it. That's a very simple.
Right. Yeah.
Man, dude, I'm really getting bent with people calling themselves researchers. I'm really starting to finally see, because you used to talk about this, right? That, well, they're not. You're not really doing research. And so I kind of thought about it when I was getting ready this morning. And I thought, well, recently there's been all this buzz about we can't call Bitcoin cryptocurrency crypto because it debases cryptography as a discipline. Okay. And I started thinking about it. I'm like, well, okay, so if I call these monkeys researchers, jobbers, to put them in your parlance, what is that doing to legitimate research? And then so I started thinking about this dude that blocked us and deleted the tweets. Well, is that kind of what you get out of it? It's like this debased, perverted copy of something. When you copy something, you copy the copy and copy the copy, right? It loses fidelity. It loses resolution. Like, what in the fuck are we doing?
And I don't know how, because they haven't disclosed everything yet. I think they're supposed to do it later this week. But this is the part that gets me as to why I don't call them researchers. And not that it's a bad thing. They're bug hunters. That's completely different. Or vulnerability hunters. What they're doing in most cases, and there's just nothing wrong with this, they're taking some type of platform, browser, as an example, running an application through it, and they're just using the fuzzing out. They're just fuzzing it, and they're waiting for a crash. Okay, there's nothing wrong with this either, because the way I put this back into the non-tech speak is this is just the person who is a hunter of some type or a trapper. They've set the trap, or you're fishing and you see the line go down. I've got something, but I'm not going to know what I have until I pull in the line, I go out and hunt, inspect the trap, and see what's there. And even then, I may not have something legitimate, because maybe I got a dirty catfish. Because I don't know why people like that kind of fish. It's horrible. But anyway, maybe you got something that's just not worthy of doing anything with, and so you cut it up and use it as chum and go back out and go capture something else. So anyway, the bug hunter, they got a crash. Now they try to reverse engineer that crash into what the real vulnerability is and determine, and most times they don't even exploit it. All they have to do is, in theory, this could be exploited in this way, but they don't have an active proof of concept, which is why we start seeing a lot of things now on Twitter with the hashtag POC or GTFO, right? Because they're just saying it's not legitimate. Well, there's some legitimacy. I just put it on a lower scale. That is my suspicion as to what's happened here.
Well,
they were taking a browser, they took the plugin for PGP, and they're just fuzzing it. They got a crash. Oh, this is what could happen. That's but I mean, you have a fallible platform if you're using Windows as the base operating system with Internet Explorer, regardless. I mean, the number one exploitable application on Windows is Internet Explorer.
Well, so like you, man, I don't have a problem with the work being done. I think it's very valuable. We did it. We supported it. We had a bug bounty program. We paid people to do it. I mean, it's good work. It makes business sense to do it that way too, in a lot of ways. What I have an issue with is I've come to the conclusion, and I'm telling you, man, I think I'm almost at a point where I'll find the right HackerCon to submit a talk to, and I'll go do this. Because calling this research is, to me now, the epitome of anti-intellectualism. And here's why. Yep. I don't feel like it makes me less as a researcher. It's not like, oh, somehow you're cheapening my job. It's not a personal argument. What it is you're taking a term and you're confusing it. And anybody that's not in that community, in that world, in that subculture now thinks that's research when it's anything but. There's no formal inquiry of methodology of inquiry. There's no protocols. There's no replication. It doesn't meet the base definition of research. So why do you call it that? Why do you have to take this word and apply it and somehow legitimize the work? Because the work is legitimate already. You're not doing research. You're not a researcher. It's not science. And in fact, that's why there's a newer, it's only within the last few years, discipline called cyber science, which is meant to deal with this exact problem. The problem being that people call it research and they call it science, and it's not, because there's no rigor.
Because, well, this is my opinion as to why. Because if you call them a researcher, to the layman, they don't know the difference anyway.
Right.
But if you say that they're a bug hunter or they're a hacker, oh, that's negative connotation. You can't deal with that. So they had to come up with something that seemed like a legitimate word for those people that are in a non-technical capacity, to where they wouldn't be turned off. Oh, you research cybersecurity stuff. That's cool. Yeah, it is. But on the other side, it does. There is no science to it. I'm using a tool. I mean, I'm a tradesman in this particular case, and this is part of the reason why we both say that penetration testing is like an entry-level job now.
Yeah, completely. Well, look, man. I mean, this is what I'm starting to get a little worked up about the misuse of the term research and researcher. If you want to teach a kid science, have them do a chemistry lab, have them do a basic physical science lab or a science fair project. That's science, that's research. But going and doing a cyber patriot competition as a high schooler, you're not a researcher. It's not science. That's technology. And that's fine. It's legitimate. There's nothing wrong with it. I don't really understand the need to co-opt the term. I understand your point, and I think it's a good point to debate. But why we pretend as a community that somehow this is legitimate just because you're calling it research and you're calling yourself a researcher it's anti-intellectualism.
Yeah, there's no experiment. I think this is part of it, where when we started, at least when it was becoming popular, when Charlie Miller was out there doing car hacking, yeah, he was doing some science. Right? Oh, I need it. What happens when I do this? What does it do? What happens when I do this? What does it do? Because he had to reverse engineer. He had to come up with a plan. He had to go and learn about all of the mechanics of how the digital interfaces work with all of the other parts. He had to research all of that.
Yeah.
But there's also a big difference. Many people don't know it's actually Dr. Charlie Miller. His PhD, I believe, is in math.
Yeah.
But there's a reason. And there's a reason why when people go, oh my gosh, look what he did, because he actually applies it. Now, not that he hasn't done fuzzing and things like that, but when he goes and attacks a new platform, he is researching that entire platform to come up with an end goal. Well, in the beginning, it was about, at least what got him in the media when he was the first person to hack the iPhone. And then it was about cars. And what did he do when he did the iPhone stuff? Oh, he went and worked for Accuvant Labs, made some good money. Hey, no, I'm not, this is just my, overall look and see what happened from the outside. Then he got into car hacking. Oh, where did he go and work? Uber. Oh, some bad stuff happened at Uber. Now he's at Uber's competition. He did it with an end game. I'm going to go become one of the most popular people in this era, and I'm going to monetize my profile and go work in this area and do some legitimate things. I mean, he came up with a lot of ways in which he presented this and went back to the car manufacturers, the ones that didn't try to sue him, and helped them to close these holes. Cool. That's some research to me. I'm just sitting there with a tool and just flipping the bits and See what happens.
It's the simple-minded, anti-intellectual position to conflate reading with research, right?
Yeah,
I mean, it's popular culture to say do your research. What you're saying is go read about this thing. But reading and research in the sense of the word are not the same thing. And reading can be instantiated as a minor piece of the rigor, but
right. Gotta reach back into it.
What do you got?
So this nice little lovely book, in order to produce this book, you had to do some research. I had to figure out what kind of tools to use. So this guy, Craig Smith, I think he works for Rapid7. He's going through. I mean, you had to write. I mean, just look at the table of contents. You had to learn all this stuff. And then once you've learned it, you started going through and figuring out how to find the vulnerabilities. And I mean, this book's pretty good. If you want to learn how to, if you want to get into that kind of stuff, guess what? The research has been done. It's been published.
Well, it's like, I was just thinking about some analogies. Here's my analogy. You tell me what you think about this.
Yeah.
Pardon me. The subculture's idea of research is like when we were kids and we played army and we pretended to be soldiers. And in some ways it was practice for soldiering, but it wasn't true soldiering, right? I mean, nobody was really shooting back, but you thought they were. It was kind of like a pretend. It was play. It was fantasy. And that's
I shot you. No, you didn't. You missed.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And then because you had cap guns and then you got BB guns, you actually shot, and then nobody ever fucking wanted to do it again because it hurts.
Yeah.
Right. So in some ways, I look at the research that's being done, and it's like a bunch of 10-year-olds playing. They're pretending to be scientists. And so it makes me wonder, what would happen if instead of responsible disclosure and whatever this notion is, we actually had like an IRB type system where there was actual frameworks and guidelines on everything that was done. And we actually had cyber science implemented so that everything was done scientifically. How much better would this be? How much better would it be? Because it actually would be intellectual instead of anti-intellectual. It wouldn't be fantasy anymore, like 5-year-olds playing war.
Well, I think the dilemma that we would probably face is the whole notion for why these people that are researchers are doing this and really they're bug hunting is to be able to make, to make some type of money. And I think bug bounties are great for this because why not? Right? Because their personalities don't allow them to conform to anything. So they get to do this whenever they want. They get to make their own rules because that's just their type of personality. But hey, then just call it for what it is. You're not researching. This stuff is researching, right? You had to put something down, talk about the methodology, understanding the bus architecture of a car, the differences between a car and a computer per se, and all of these things. That requires a completely different type of talent set.
So this goes back to where we started, though, and probably because we're wrapping up here in a minute or two.
Yeah.
So okay. So then we got to take everybody and get them 5 or 10% higher. Okay, I think that's a good goal. I think that's a really good goal.
People have to want to also, and that's probably the better. The reason why they're low performers, they don't want to.
Well, it's like because certainly, listen, man, I don't begrudge anybody making a buck off, especially their own work. I mean, off somebody else's is debatable, but certainly off your own work, I don't begrudge that one bit. So right. I don't know, man. Does there need to be a book that lays down a framework for how in the subculture you can have rigor and still be, let's say, nonconformist?
Well, I think that's what these bug bounty programs are doing. You have to put things in a particular format or they're not accepting it. So I agree with that. I think that's a way in which it will start to produce a repeatable exercise for how we disclose, how we did this, because I mean, we saw some of this stuff. We could tell right away when someone was just using a fuzzer and then they made it up. Didn't mean it was bad. Hey, good for you for, in some ways being lucky and found that particular crash and were able to put together something, because, maybe you didn't, maybe you couldn't, maybe you missed it. Anything could happen, but we could tell right away when it was something that someone looked at code and said, hey, I think your code's wrong, and this is what I could do to it, versus just simply using a fuzzer. Both are very valuable. One is a function of time before you go to skill, and the other one's skill because I have more time. One just happens to enjoy reading code. The other one wants the end result much more quickly. I mean, it's the whole reason why we have vulnerability scanners. So,
Right.
But anyway.
Yeah, man. So that was what I've been thinking about.
Yeah. It's it is one of those things where I'm like, you're not researching anything. It's what are you researching? How are you researching it? Is this a qualitative experiment? Quantitative? Mixed method? What are you doing?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's just no rigor to it. There's just no rigor to it.
That is true. All right, so we're at 63 episodes in the bag.
Mm-hmm.
That means we've got 37 that we've got to do before the end of the year to hit 100.
Well,
I think we can do it.
We might be able to slip in a couple like extra bonus episodes. Like I'll give you an example. Next week I'll be driving to North Carolina, and when I get there, my custom office should be showing up. I ordered it last week, 2 weeks ago.
What do you mean? You're having like a pod?
No.
You're gonna be out like in a trailer with the chickens?
No, they got their own one on the other side of the farm, man. I don't want them by me. I don't mind walking over there in the morning to get my eggs. No, I had a custom 12 by 12 by 7 modern office built. It's a building. They built it at a location and they built it to my specifications by hand.
And they drop ship it?
And they bring it in on a flatbed and drop it off for me.
Yeah. Okay. Like, so it's prefab. Yeah.
No. Well, it's prefab in the sense that they build it and bring it. It's not prefab it as in like the walls are pre-assembled. They build it all from scratch.
Oh, cool.
Oh, it's super badass. So I was thinking we could do a nice little bonus episode if everybody be into it because listen, man, I got to get power to that thing. I got to get Ethernet out to it. I got to get it finished on the inside because they don't do that. It might be, I'll give everybody a little walkthrough of the new mothership, as it were.
When are you driving?
Oh, fuck, man. I don't remember. I don't know. Next Sunday is the 20th. Oh, so next weekend we need to do the podcast on Saturday if that works. Because I'm booked on Sunday.
Yeah, it should.
And then fine. I think that Tuesday, because I have 2 classes on Monday. On Tuesday I split.
Okay, gotcha.
So I should be in North Carolina, I think, by Friday.
Let's see. So we've got, trying to think of how many weeks we got left here. So
I got 1 episode left in California.
All right, so we got 2 probably weeks out here, and then let's see. Yeah, I mean, we just have to do only a handful of extra episodes to hit that 100 mark.
Yeah, just a couple little small ones here and there.
Yeah, well, that sounds good.
So I'll do a walkthrough. Maybe later in the summer around August, there's another residency. I don't know if you're going to it. I will be. But by then I should have my AI studio set up on campus.
Yes, in late August, I think. I might.
Yeah.
Well, it depends on the weekend because, that's when I should be starting my MBA. So who knows?
Yeah. Well, the nice thing about the AI studio is Grima will be there. We'll get her on.
Nice. Awesome. Yeah, because she keeps throwing down the gauntlet and she backs off.
Mm-hmm. We'll have her explain herself.
So disappointed in her.
Another episode I want, I was thinking about this in the plane ride last night, and I'll end with this. You film it, and I'll figure out how to get my equipment, and I'll fight Ian.
That would be fun.
And that's why I've texted. Just so you know, man, I've messaged that dude several times, asking him for information, and he keeps ignoring me. And I'm convinced the reason he's ignoring me is he knows I'll crush him.
Well, you can always make the trip out here to South Bend.
I will. No, I'll get on a fucking plane.
Well, no, you're driving cross country. Why not just take the northern route, come through Indiana?
Dude, no, that's bad news. That's bad news. Because listen, man, I've already set aside a fund because I know I'll probably at least get pulled over once. Every single time, man. It's either Texas or Oklahoma, and it's usually Oklahoma because you got to go past.
Well, then go north, so then you can bypass Oklahoma.
Yeah, but it's worse. The states are worse, man. They're actually worse. I like the southern route because there's vast stretches of just nothingness, and I can just drive.
I hear you.
Anyway, man.
Cool. All right. Well, episode's in the bag.
Yeah, there you go. If you're gonna post on Twitter, you better be sincere. You're gonna get called out.
Peace.
Later, everybody.
All right, friends.
Aspire to some higher order science. Jesus, man. Anti-intellectual peons. Later.